Well, good evening and welcome to the Temecula Community Services Commission meeting of May 10th, 2021. We remain in a virtual setting this month. Always hopeful that we can meet again in person, but I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'm Commissioner Chair Eric Levine. We are now officially moving. And as typical, Commissioner Adi, would you like to give us the flag salute this evening?
I will do that. I have a tough act to follow with Commissioner Sizemore. I think I can do it. Please place your right hand over your heart and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And we'll move on to roll call.
Good evening, Chair. Thea Barnett, happy to serve as your Commission Secretary this evening. If I can take the roll, please. Commissioner Kostevsky.
Here.
Commissioner Levine.
Here.
Commissioner Adi.
Here.
Commissioner Ruiz.
Here.
And Commissioner Sizemore.
Here.
Very good. All present. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Barnett, do we have any public comments this evening?
No, Chair Levine, there are no public comments this evening.
Well, we are clipping along and I will dispense with the reading of those rules. And we will move on to division reports. And I see Katrina Thorson is here. Will you be up first tonight, Ms. Thorson?
Yes, Chair Levine, I will be.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, commissioners. My name is Katrina Thorson. I'm a community services coordinator for the department, and it is my pleasure to join you tonight to present the first half of the community services report for the month of April. Beginning with aquatics, staff has been busy gearing up for the summer season. Sorry. And all of the summer programs are now available to view on the TCSC online catalog page, and they will open for registration later in May. And also to prepare for these summer programs, Aquatics is hiring to bring more hands on deck. Potential lifeguards went through tryouts this past month in hopes to land a position, and orientation was actually scheduled for earlier today. Staff conducted water rescue, water entries, scanning, and CPR and high stress scenario trainings this past month as well. And at the very bottom there, you can see the attendance for this month was 2,112 for lap swim, water exercise and master swim classes had a total of 93. And tryout practice day for the lifeguard tryouts was 32. Okay, next slide. All right, so for contract classes, the team is ramping up class offerings to the community and the response has been fantastic. There were 16 classes in April and every class met minimum enrollment and several hit their maximums with waitlists as long as the class itself, if not longer. And more classes are scheduled to be added in June to meet the high demand. With the added classes and reopening of City Hall, the contract classes team was happy to welcome back Lisa Linton last month. Additionally, after a year hiatus, the team will be putting together another guide to leisure activities that will be mailed out to residents in June. They are currently compiling class sheets and information from TCSD divisions to include in that book. Next slide. All right, so over at the Community Recreation Center, more summer programming is happening, and they're preparing to bring back the summer day camp for another year. The camp features a wide variety of fun-filled recreation activities that keep kids ages 6 to 14 happy and busy all summer long. This popular program includes games, crafts, music, virtual field trips, and swimming. Registration for Temecula residents opens at 8 a.m. sharp on May 17th, and spots will go quickly. It's reported that there's about 200 families on the interest list, and the program hasn't been advertised yet, so it will fill up. Next slide. All right, and at the Teen Zone over at the Community Recreation Center, they reopened today, and the teens can reserve their spot online on our community services website, and the hours of operation are 2:30 to 5:30, and they're open Monday through Friday. Activities that can be enjoyed there are Xbox, PlayStation, board games, and a smart TV. Staff is very excited to welcome back the teens in person, but they do still have virtual programs for those who prefer that. And the next slide will go into detail. So one of the virtual programs is the Teen Zone monthly theme box. And the program filled up and had a wait list. The virtual meetup was led by CRC Rec Assistants Michael and Lauren. They led participants in a rain art and bookmark craft and played a game relating to Earth Day. Another virtual program is Tasty Tuesdays, and that's held on Zoom. Michael and Lauren teach teens how to make both classic and new recipes from scratch. Both teens and staff enjoy connecting and creating new things. Next slide. So for over homeless outreach, starting with the stats from April, there were 12 new clients, 1 street exit, and 1 placed in permanent housing. That is a year-to-date total of 18 street exits of both swag and city clients. City staff, HOT and swag have been busy connecting with the community. In April, these teams made an effort to talk with businesses and property owners, and they hired security staff in areas with known transient activity to provide them with contact info and offering assistance. And on Wednesday, April 28th, City Swag and HOT provided a presentation to the Rotary Club at Europa Winery and received multiple donations from the Rotary of fast food gift cards for the Help Center to distribute as deemed appropriate. Also in April, HOT conducted a zero tolerance day on the 22nd, which resulted in 16 transient arrests. Finally, the City Council has approved the swag agreement extension through April 11th, 2022. And staff member Mark Martinez received a promotion to Community Services Coordinator too. So congratulations to Mark. Next slide, please. Okay, so starting with inclusive services, the High Hopes and SKIP programs are still being offered virtually through Zoom. Participants can engage and connect with friends and city staff. In April, participants can engage and connect with friends and city staff. I'm sorry, I don't have a dog, so I don't know. So participants can engage and connect with friends and city staff. In April, participants enjoyed fun springtime activities and games. And April was also Autism Awareness Month, and that was recognized virtually as well. And then for the Youth Advisory Council, or YAC, they went out into the community to participate in a park cleanup for Earth Day. And it was through the Adopt a Park program. Students also came up with ways that they could be more environmentally conscious in their day-to-day lives. Finally, the Global Citizens Horticulture and Viticulture vocational program took place throughout April on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's okay. And the students participated in workshops, a nutrition workshop, as well as virtual field trips and interactive lessons. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so for senior services, over at the Mary Phillips Senior Center, the staff distributed 1 week's worth of lunches to approximately 120 seniors every Friday for senior meals curbside pickup. To date, staff has distributed over 48,000 meals to seniors in need during the pandemic. The staff also operates the SOS Shuttle Services program weekly, providing curb-to-curb transportation from seniors' homes to grocery stores and back home. Seniors who do not have access to transportation are able to do essential shopping and regain some independence. And the community garden has been flourishing this spring with bountiful harvest, and they are distributed to seniors during the curbside meal program. This month, harvested consisted of broccoli, kale, beets, cauliflower, cabbage, sweet peas, onions, and more. Next slide, please. The Mary Phillips Senior Center hosted a mobile COVID-19 vaccine clinic for ages 16 and up through the Riverside University Health System. And they provided 684 Pfizer vaccines to our community residents during the 5 days that they were at the senior center. And the AARP tax aid program offered free in-person tax preparation, and it concludes this month, May 17th, after its 11-week run. Okay, next slide, please. So over at the library, they reopened with 50% capacity and saw 6,299 people in the facility in April. The rest of the statistics for April are as follows. There were 9 recorded programs with 5,203 views, 19,538 circulated items, 5,776 self-checkout items, 1,640 questions, 1,182 in and out completions, and 436 Wi-Fi connections. Library staff also set up some fun displays at the library featuring sports movies, staff picked DVDs, and an Asian American and Pacific Islander month display. Next slide, please. We have a lot of projects and renovations going on at our parks. At Margarita, Mike Nagar Community Park, the hockey, tennis, pickleball courts, LED light retrofit is on track for July of this year, and a new park sign construction is currently underway. Over at the Friendship Park, the basketball and tennis court resurfacing is anticipated to be completed in May. Also expected to be completed in May is the new park sign construction. And the playground is still under construction and is also expected to be completed in May. So May will be a big month. The Sam Hicks Monument Park perimeter fencing project is anticipated to begin construction in May. And additionally, we were awarded $46,374 in grant funding from RCWD for turf removal projects at Sam Hicks Monument Park and Winchester Creek Park. The projects will be completed over the next 120 days. Perfect, thank you. Kicking off with sports, the youth adult sports are up and running at full capacity, except for indoor activities. We are coming up to the halfway point for all leagues seasons in May. And rental groups are still limited to field space opportunities due to the lack of approval to use school sites. And park rangers have reported they've been busy with after-school student visitors to parks, sports, special events permits, homelessness, municipal code violations, additional assistant calls, and normal patrols. Okay, and that concludes this portion of the report. I'd be happy to help answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katrina. And I'll publicly apologize for the interruption by those dogs. You know, unfortunately, that working from home and attending meetings from home, sometimes life creeps in. So apologies. But outstanding report again.
Thank you.
Let me see if any of our folks have questions. We'll start with Commissioner Krastevsky.
Thank you, Katrina. That was an awesome report. No questions on my end. I'm just happy to see that everything's up and running and that there are wait lists on the contract classes and sports is up and running again. And it's just a good time. I'm glad to see things are moving again. So thanks again for your report.
Of course, thank you.
Lost my mute there. Commissioner Adi, please.
Thanks so much, Katrina. It was an amazing report, filled with just an abundance of positive reporting. It's something that we've had all the way through the pandemic, but now as we're coming out, you really get to see some of the great things that are going on activity-wise. I had a question on the turf removal at Sam Hicks and Winchester Creek, and I wasn't aware of what was going to happen after the turf is removed. Are we just going back in with more turf, or is there other amenities going in at those parks?
Generally, so that's under Stacy Fox and Park Maintenance, but generally what happens is we receive a grant to remove turf and replace it with water-wise planting. So where he's done that in the past, for example, it might be an area of median or an area around, say, Harveston Lake Park, where he's able to remove some turf and then replace it with landscaping that is water-wise.
Outstanding. Thank you, Erica. Other than that, just again, kudos to Katrina and great report. Good to see all this stuff going on. I was really wanted to highlight too some of the things that were mentioned about nutrition for senior nutrition. The YAC group did the youth group did the chia chocolate. I think was supposed to be nutritious. But good. Sometimes we forget about, we talk about activity and exercise and health, but to have that focus on nutrition too is great. And having that community garden, I'd really like to see that expand. And I know there probably is some planning on expanding that a bit, but thanks again, Katrina.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. We'll go over to Commissioner Sizemore.
Thank you, Chair Levine, and no worries with the dog. It could have been any one of us. It would have especially been me if the UPS guy or anybody had knocked at my front door. So no worries. Katrina, thank you for your excellent report. It just filled with great positive news. It's so exciting to see the contract classes that are returning so many of them are full and have wait lists. That's great to see. It's obvious that the residents of Temecula are ready to get back out there and recreate. I mean, really happy to see so many in-person events starting to return. And I'm glad to see that you guys are keeping a virtual option open for our teens. Unfortunately, there are some teens out there that are just, they're not ready. And I'm glad that we're giving them that space to still be engaged, but honor that they're not ready to attend in person. It's great to see that there's been 18 street exits for swag and hot this since the beginning of the year. Question I had was, you said on 4/22 it was zero tolerance day for hot. Could you elaborate and explain to me what zero tolerance day was, what that meant?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the question, Commissioner Sizemore. So really what that is typically when we go out with the hot team, we may encounter individuals that, might have minor warrants or things like that, where they would rather us perform outreach. So a lot of times they may not enforce those at the time, let them off with a warning or a simple citation that will allow us to perform outreach. But then there's also, different crimes that may have occurred throughout the day. So there's a combination of those, and they'll have those on occasion just to, balance our approach to the individual. So we have our outreach, and then, they'll have their days where they focus more on enforcement to make sure that, they are, again, having that balanced approach and make sure that people are abiding the law. So.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Last thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to see about getting back into the senior center to serve meals on one of the Fridays. If you guys could get me on that list, I'd love to make that maybe like a once a month thing. And the viticulture program, I'm still love that. I'm very interested in making sure or helping to enable that there's opportunities for middle-aged people like me that are wanting to find a hobby now that they're empty nesters. And I really think that would be a great program to open up and offer as an adult class. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll move on to Vice Chair Ruiz. Go ahead, Adam.
Sure, thanks, Chairman there. Katrina, thanks for your report. No need to duplicate everything that's been said. This is really a very positive night of seeing things opening up and filled up. Really excited to see that activity guide going out again, and feel bad for the people that are waitlisted, but happy to see that these classes are being sought after, in such a heavy amount. The summer day camp, you had mentioned that there's an estimated 200 people already on the wait list or kind of anticipating joining before even promoting it. What is capacity for that camp?
I do not know the max capacity for it. I do know that every year it does reach maximum with wait lists. It's a full day camp, so it's popular with the people who need childcare for the whole workday. But I'd have to check with the CRC staff and see what the max capacity is on that.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have that at my fingertips either. I'm just scanning my email because I know I have it from Gwen here somewhere, but Katrina's right. It does fill up every year. And then this year there was even more of a squeeze on it because of the spacing requirements, since we'll still have some COVID restrictions in terms of distancing.
Yeah, and I guess my question was more along the line, is it going to be filled before it even goes public kind of a thing? Or is those that aren't, aware of maybe that program coming back, are they going to have the same opportunity to apply for it?
So day camp is one of our programs where we do open it up to residents prior to non-residents, precisely because it does tend to fill up so quickly. So definitely it will, well, I shouldn't say definitely, we believe it will be filled before it goes to non-resident opening. And I suspect that people use that day camp, that summer day camp program basically as a type of summer childcare almost for, slightly older children. So the families who use that we have a lot of repeat customers. They come back year after year. So my suspicion is those families will be on the lookout for this reopening. And I think they're probably going to jump in there. And my guess is it'll close out within, hours, if even that, of opening registration.
Yeah, I would assume the same just on, past usage of it. And, I think everyone is excited to get back out and, interact again. So that's great. quick couple comments, just congrats to the swag and the hot team for all their successes. Love hearing those updated reports. Congratulations to Mark on your promotion as well. And then I had the same question that Commissioner Adi brought up with the turf grant program and the turf removal. And I trust Stacy. I don't remember the exact square footage. There was some decent amount of turf being removed. I just hope that it's weighed in the amount of park play space shortages that are out there, and understanding that turf and water, is an expense to maintain and whatnot, but we have a lack of field space availability for sports, which then cuts into those for families that want to have theirs out. So I have full faith in Stacy and his team, and I've worked with him on multiple planted tree projects around the area, but I'm glad Gary brought that question up, because that was my first thought, as I hope we're not cutting out too much of our field space.
No, we won't be converting any fields. This is generally perimeter turf.
Perfect. And that's all I had. Katrina, thank you again. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good, thanks, Vice Chair. Really no comments from me other than to echo, it was very positive overall, exciting to see some of those numbers. 48,000 meals for seniors during COVID. Just outstanding. And keep up the good work. Appreciate your report. Thanks, Katrina.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we will toss the ball, as it were, over to Tracy Courts. Miss Courts.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. I'm Tracy Courts, and I will be presenting the Cultural Arts Division report. Let's begin with the ACE team. Donald Pash, a local photographer and frequent exhibitor at Art Off the Walls, is our current online virtual gallery artist. Guests can view the museum's virtual gallery page to view Donald's beautiful nature wildlife photos. Next slide, please. Moving on to community outreach. The Community Relations and Outreach team was busy filming and releasing new episodes of the Park Adventure series in the month of April. In episode 8, we traveled to Paloma del Sol Park. In episode 9, we are showcasing Riverton Park. We also recently issued a film permit to Ant Hill Films Limited. Last month, they filmed at the pump track for an episode of their web series, Return to Earth Season 2. Episode 24 of Around and About Temecula will be released on May 12th. This episode focuses on the Student Art Mule Project, fishing etiquette, and a how-to segment on requesting to speak at a commission meeting. This month, we will begin filming the next episode of Around and About Temecula, as well as the next episode of the Park Adventure series, which will be focusing on the Temecula Duck Pond. Next slide, please. Now for an update on special events. May has been off to a busy start for the special events team as we've been celebrating Bike Month. The Bike Month Challenge is taking place throughout the month of May. Participants are encouraged to ride their bikes, log their miles, and email them directly to me. And at the end of the month, prizes will be awarded to our top cyclists, courtesy of the Bike Shop and Temecula Motorsports. On May 4th, we hosted a groundbreaking ceremony for the Santa Gratuitous Creek Interconnect Trail. Thank you to Commissioner Adi for saying a few words during the ceremony. We will continue the celebration with our Bike Month open house event this Saturday, May 15th. We have invited the Bike Shop and our Hike Bike Temecula team to host info booths at the event and pass out fun giveaways. On May 29th, we invite you to celebrate Memorial Day weekend online with a concert featuring the Temecula Valley Symphony, which will be live on Facebook. Lastly, keep an eye out for our June events. This year's Art and Street Painting Festival will be a hybrid event. Our art exhibitors will be featured online while the chalk artists will be creating their masterpieces in Old Town. Then we will kick off the summer concert series on June 10th, followed by a movie in the park on June 11th. Next slide, please. The show must go on with an update from the theater. In April, Temecula's theater celebrated National Poetry Month. Patrons were invited to the month-long celebration of National Poetry Month presented on the theater's social media page. It celebrated how poetry has influenced the performing arts industry. Next slide, please. Temecula Presents also premiered another free online concert from our Legends series, Taylormade Tapestry, a tribute to Carole King and James Taylor, which streamed on Friday, April 30th. The concert reached over 1,000 patrons on Facebook and 113 views on YouTube. Next slide, please. And last but not least, the museum traveled virtually to celebrate the country of Thailand in the month of April. For this second Saturday event, we invited guests to enjoy food through recipes posted online and experience the culture of Thailand through facts, virtual tours, and an art class hosted by Tony Moramarco. Next slide, please. On April 20th, a new exhibit opened at the Temecula Valley Museum. The Artists of Dorland exhibit features a unique collection of art by Temecula artists presented by Dorland Mountain Arts Colony. We encourage you to check out this exhibit as it will remain on display through August 22nd. Next slide, please. In other museum news, Public Works assisted with the installation of the third student art mural at Sam Hicks Monument Park. Bigfoot Graphics student artist Sabina Rose Flores created this mural commemorating the end of the 1918 pandemic titled Hope and Healing. On May 4th, we unveiled a temporary public art piece that celebrates Japan's Children's Day in honor of Temecula's sister city, Daisen, Japan. Next slide, please. This past Saturday, guests were invited to take a virtual trip to Japan and participate in a live art lesson on Zoom with Bigfoot art classes. You can visit the Temecula Valley Museum website to explore the educational activities. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Fantastic, and not to be outdone, another very positive report. Thank you, Tracy. We'll go in reverse order this time. Vice Chair.
Had a feeling you would. Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, like Chair Levine said, very positive report there. Quick question: the theater, are we back to live in-person shows, or is that anticipated anytime soon, or do we have any kind of timeline on that?
Thanks for the question. We are live and in person as a recording facility currently. We have recorded several performances without audience. Currently on stage, the Temecula Valley Players filmed professionally Songs for Hope, which will be released shortly. We have not had any ticketed performances pending booking, staffing, and finally being able to fully operate with all staff. For example, our back of house was happy to come back. When I got to see them again after a year, they were just saying, this is the best job I ever had. I love it. I can't wait to come back. Unfortunately, 0 of our front of house could come back. So we are in the process of recruiting. That would be the people in the ticket office that are helping the patrons, the front of house managers, the volunteer coordinators, and so forth. So right now, if we had to open, I'd be selling you your tickets. So at this point, it's a function of staffing and booking. We are planning on having a few concerts in the summer with live audience. So we are in the process of booking those, but you can expect the 2021-22 season to start in September officially, when we have all of our musicals and performances booked and on stage.
Great, thanks for the update there as well. I know I've seen some of the performances filmed, which is second best, I guess, but I know how much, especially the younger actors, love to get out there and perform, and giving them the opportunity to do that. So makes sense with some of the staffing, and appreciate the explanation there. My last comment, really just a comment. I was able to film part of the Around and About Temecula portion. Had a lot of fun. It was my first time actually in council chambers, I think, since last March. So it was just kind of great to be back. And Jeff and Mike always make it super fun, and was happy to represent the commission doing so. Thanks again, Tracy, and Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Great, thanks, Vice Chair. We'll move on. Commissioner Sizemore.
Thank you, Chair Levine. And thank you, Tracy, for your report. I don't have any questions, just compliments. I'm so excited to see the Street Painting Festival and the Summer Concert Series back on the schedule. It'll be different, but it's coming back and I'm really excited to see that. I also wanted to comment on the Taylormade Tapestry concert. You know, concerts are always better if you're there in person, but I really enjoyed listening and watching that concert online. It was an excellent group. They played some different arrangements that I had never heard, and I just really enjoyed it. So just compliments on that concert. And of course, I love the student mural project. Sabina, who did the 1918 pandemic mural. Oh, what a talented young artist here in our city. Her painting, she had such dimension and the proportions on her faces. It was just such beautiful artwork on display in our city park. It was great. And I'm looking forward to seeing that 2021-2022 theater season starting. So thank you. Back to you, Chair Levine.
Great. We'll move on. Commissioner Adi.
Thank you. Also, Chair Levine, I'd like to pick up on what Commissioner Sizemore was talking about in terms of the murals. But first, I'd like to thank Tracy for an amazing report, a succinct report. Thank you for that. And it's good to see you without a mask, by the way. I wanted to go back to the murals. First of all, Savina's mural with the hope thing was amazing. How much research she put into that artwork and tied it into the current event, and it just says so much about what Temecula is doing also with that, with the pandemic and the hope that we've had throughout, and the healing, and just a real positive approach to the basic disaster that we had, and the ability to be resilient and pull out of it, and in using history to do that. She taught me a few things about history, and that's kind of my area of study. So it was really special. And then also to see Dyson mentioned on the mural, you know, and highlighted is super special. I was just, as you were talking, and I had some thoughts about, it would be amazing if we could direct more walking traffic through that area. Where I love the spot, but to consider somehow to make that more accessible to the public, because it really tells a great story about our town. And finally, Tracy, thank you for everything you're doing with Bike Month. She is awesome in taking our bike challenge mileage. I am now in second place out of 2 riders. So I'm really excited about my efforts this time around. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Thank you.
Great. And we'll wrap up with Commissioner Krastevsky. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Tracy, again for the awesome report. I'm really excited about the Bike Month Challenge. Gary, I think I just signed up to be the 3rd one. Literally, I just sent a ride I did on Friday, 17 miles. I just sent it to Tracy, so that's going to get logged. But yeah, it's a really cool thing that that the department is doing, and I'm excited about it. So I wish I could have been there for the Santa Gertrudis Creek Trail meeting you guys had. I was just out of town. Unfortunately, it got switched from Thursday to Tuesday and I missed it, but I'm excited to check that out. Maybe Gary and I can go do a ride one day and check that out. But other than that, more amazing stuff going on. I'm excited about Trolls on June 11th. I think my kids will be excited to go to the amphitheater and watch that. So Thank you for all you guys do, and thanks for the awesome report, Tracy.
Thanks, Commissioner. And Tracy, nothing to add. I mean, my colleagues have noted all the high points and, the art mural. I had the opportunity to attend the second one and had an opportunity to speak with the artists, and just very, very cool. With that, I will thank you, Tracy. Appreciate the report out this month, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. So all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the Community Services Commission request that specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. We have one item on the calendar, that is to approve the action minutes of April 12th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Should we do
There's a
roll call?
motion on the floor by
Yeah.
Commissioner Sizemore and a second by Gary Audi. If we can take a voice vote, please. Commissioner Sizemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Kristevsky,
Aye.
Commissioner Audi,
aye.
Vice Chair Ruiz, and Chair Levine.
Aye.
That passes 5-0 unanimously. Thank you.
The ayes have it. Thank you, Bea. And it looks like we have two items, two business items. The first, we will receive a presentation on the city's work program to update the quality of life master plan. Who will be our presenter for this one?
That would be me. Good
All
evening.
right.
Good evening, commissioners. I've worked with most of you, but for those of you that I have not yet, my name is Matt Peters. I'm in the long range division of the planning department, and I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see that? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thanks for allowing me to come crash the Community Services Commission meeting. It's a nice change of pace, always positive. So many good things being done in TCSD, so good to see. So let me begin. Again, I'm Matt Peters in the Long Range Division. I'll be working on the Quality of Life Master Plan and the General Plan update. So I just have a short presentation for you. At the last council meeting, the City Council approved the contract to update the Quality of Life Master Plan. And as part of that process, I'm attending all the different commission meetings just to give some detail on the QLMP or Quality of Life Master Plan update, but then provide some context as to where that fits into the general plan update. So this is a receive and file item, but at the end, I'll definitely take your questions and feedback on that process. So a little background on the state law relative to a general plan. A general plan is the city's blueprint for future growth and development. And a general plan is required to have 9 elements, and all cities have to adopt a general plan. So the 9 elements include land use, open space, conservation, housing, environmental justice, circulation, noise, air quality, and safety. And these elements are important as they also relate to the QLMP. Current status on our general plan. The last comprehensive update was done in 2005, but over the years, the plan's been amended several times to reflect changes in land use, policy changes, and to meet statutory requirements. And a couple of recent examples of amendments to the general plan include the Altair specific plan, the land use plan west of Old Town, and an affordable housing overlay, or AHOZ, to expedite the construction of affordable housing. And over the last few months, we've met with the General Plan Update Subcommittee to discuss the process of an update. And from those meetings, 2 key takeaways and direction specifically from the subcommittee include: phase the update over time using grant money, and then update the quality of life master plan first as the foundation for the general plan. So I'm sure most of us are familiar with the Quality of Life Master Plan, or QLMP. It's a broad level planning document that identifies the city's 6 core values. And you can see them in the colored boxes on the screen. They range from a healthy and livable city over to an accountable and responsive city government. And the idea is to update the Quality of Life Master Plan through public input, and then later update the general plan elements and organize them under our core values as shown on the screen. This will ensure consistency between the documents, with the QLMP serving as the foundation and organizing document. This is an illustration of our general plan update process graphic. There's a lot that went into this. We've been working on it for a while. As you can see, there are several work tasks that have been broken down into 4 phases. I have a slide for each phase, but what's important to note is that we're in phase 1 and moving to phase 2 with the Quality of Life Master Plan update. Both phase 1 and phase 2 are 100% grant and funded. And the entire process is expected to take about 5 years. However, we're over a year in, we're making progress, and I'd estimate we have just over 3 years left. So phase 1 includes the housing and public safety elements, which are in progress. We're working with a consultant on both. And these are both general plan elements that will be going to the Planning Commission and then the City Council in late summer or early fall. So the state requires that action be taken on these 2 elements by October of this year. Also in May of 2020, the city's traffic impact analysis guidelines were amended to measure vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, as opposed to level of service for CEQA. There's a lot going on there with that law. But this was another state requirement and was absolutely necessary for us to do this before diving into a full general plan update. Phase 2 includes 4 work tasks, the first being the Quality of Life Master Plan, which is at the beginning of the process, and that also includes a True North or community survey. That survey was just complete. There are some draft results, and we expect those to be presented to the City Council in the very near future. And those survey results will be presented to the Blue Ribbon Committee, which is the committee working on the Quality of Life Master Plan, to help inform their discussions and their recommendations. We're also working with Fair and Peers on a baseline evaluation of our circulation network. Big shocker, preliminary results identify traffic as a major issue in the city of Temecula. But what we're doing with our baseline evaluation is to take a look at what's been built or what's on the ground and what was planned in the last circulation element, so we can take a look at what connections have yet to be made, which are high priority, which can we do to help move traffic more efficiently through the city. And we want to have a good handle on that before we start getting into making future land use decisions. And we'll also be developing a complete streets document to consider all modes of transportation in our street design, so including walking, biking, and transit. And then we'll be doing some GIS mapping to help with the general plan update. Phase 3 is a strategic phase. It's one of our shorter phases. It's about 6 months. And after we gather all of this information, go through the Quality of Life Master Plan update, we're going to do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and challenges analysis. We'll kind of do some reflection, ask ourselves some questions about what did we learn going through the Quality of Life Master Plan update? What did we learn working with our consultant on our circulation network? And we'll identify partners and opportunities for future outreach. We'll then establish a general plan advisory committee, which may or may not be made up of blue ribbon committee members, understanding that this all takes a lot of time and meeting fatigue is a real thing. We didn't want to just assume that the blue ribbon committee members would become part of the general plan advisory committee. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. But then we'll finally develop an RFP and a consultant selection committee and move into phase 4. Phase 4 being the general plan update and the EIR. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. So what we're trying to do is just build on each phase. So when we get to phase 4, we can be efficient and successful. And I guess finally, this is the quality of life master plan graphic. I apologize if this is hard to read, but essentially this is the year-long process of the update of the quality of life master plan. Across the top in red are the different blue ribbon committee meetings. In the middle, the green indicate all of the different public outreach events. So there'll be key stakeholder meetings, there will be pop-up events, there'll be social media engagement, in addition to the True North survey and other questionnaires and meetings. And then finally, along the bottom are the different core value draft chapters that will be shared with the Blue Ribbon Committee, administrative drafts, key milestones as we go through the process. So, and that process is expected to take just over a year. So finally, to kind of wrap this up, the Blue Ribbon Committee will consist of our general plan update subcommittee, so Mayor Edwards and Mayor Pro Tem Ron. And then the idea was to have representation from at least one rep from each of the commissions and boards. So from Planning Commission, Lene Turley-Trejo, Old Town Local Review Board, Ross Jackson, Public Traffic Safety Commission, David Maddox, Community Services, Kathy Sizemore, and Denise Wilson from the Ready Commission. And then as directed by the General Plan Update Subcommittee, we extended invites to a very broad and diverse group of stakeholders, which made for a somewhat large blue ribbon committee, but we wanted to make sure we had good representation of the committee or the community. And our consultants have assured us that they will still be able to hold very efficient and effective meetings with this bigger group. I won't go through the whole list, but I will identify that community services is well represented by both Kathy and Gary Oddie. Gary's representing Bike Temecula Valley and Active Transportation. So with that, I guess I'll just open it up for questions, comments, suggestions. This is the second commission meeting I've been to. I presented last week to Planning Commission. I'll be going on Thursday to the Ready Commission, and then following that, Public Traffic Safety and Old Town Local Review Board. So if you have questions, comments about process, I'd like to hear them.
Sure. I guess I'll in the interest of efficiency, I'll just ask each one. Commissioner Krastevsky?
No questions, Matt. Thank you so much for the presentation. It really helps me get a grasp on how this process works and how decisions are made. And it reassures me that everything goes through the process and is as efficient as it can be. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thanks, Chris. Moving on, Commissioner Oddie.
Yes, Matt, thank you for a great presentation tonight, and thanks for all your work you're doing on this. I think bottom line is, and the True North is a great quality of life in our town. And I think you've, over the years, behind the scenes, have been a real big part of our quality of life. So I want to thank you and your team for all your efforts. I do want to comment, and I had an opportunity to go through some of the materials that was sent out with our agenda, and I was kind of taken aback by how much walking, biking, active transportation was included in our capital improvement plans, in the process. And I think that in our last couple of meetings ago, when we got our budget presentation, a lot of the comments were about, including active transportation, and looking at, biking and walkability infrastructure with circulation, which is oftentimes separated. And I was really glad to see that that is included, especially in our capital improvement projects. So wanted to bring that out, and thank you again for Matt for all you've done to get a lot of these things done.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. So the just a quick note on that, the Trails and Bikeways Master Plan was adopted in fall of 2016. And that document focused on, we did a gap analysis. We looked at all the trails and bikeways, I guess class 2 bike lanes in the street, and then the class 1 trails. And we just wanted to close those gaps. And the preparation and adoption of that plan has helped us get those CIP projects in the CIP. So it was a big part of that was that Trails and Bikeways Master Plan update that allowed us to do that.
Appreciate that, Matt. Thank you. Commissioner Sizemore?
Thank you, Chair Levine. First of all, I'd like to just say that I'm really honored to be a part of the Blue Ribbon Committee, and I'm looking forward to being a part and contributing to the Quality of Life Master Plan for the city of Temecula. I remember back in 2005 reading about this Quality of Life Master Plan and the whole master plan. And I remember reading it over my morning coffee in the newspaper back when we used to get the Californian every morning. And I remember thinking 2030, when I read that that would be the next update, I remember thinking 2030, that's a long time. Why are we worried about it? And here, it's not that long now. I did want to ask you about the format for the community meetings. Have there been any decisions on, are you going to be conducting in-person meetings, or will there be some type of hybrid format?
So right now, the idea is to hold the Blue Ribbon Committee meetings in person in the conference facility, and to then make those meetings public via live stream.
Okay.
Right now, that's the idea and our hope. But if we're required the first couple of meetings to hold those in Zoom, we're prepared to do that as well. So we're just kind of taking a wait and see. The True North survey results are going to be a big part of this update, the general plan update. So what we want to do is make sure we have those survey results ready, and we've gone through those and digested the results, and then we can present those to the Blue Ribbon Committee. I would expect our first meeting to be in July. I was thinking June, but more than likely it's going to be mid to end July.
Okay. I would just like to encourage you to look at doing some type of format that is potentially hybrid of a nature. We have a lot of residents in our city that commute. My husband commuted from San Diego for close to 30 years, and he just had no ability to participate in anything like this because he was down in San Diego and commuting. So getting home in time to go to one of these meetings was an impossibility. And quality of life in our city is something that is really important to a lot of our commuting residents. So I'd love to see something made available so that we can just get a really full engagement participation from all the citizens in our city.
That's a very good point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. And we'll wrap it up with Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Matt, for a very detailed report here, but also very simple in layman's terms, which is appreciated. Just one question for you. Phase 1, you had a housing element that was going to be worked on, I think, between now and October, if I remember the slide correctly. Are you guys working with the newest RENA numbers, and is that being incorporated into this moving forward, or is that completely separate?
No, that's the driving force for us, are those RENA numbers. So we're in the 6th housing cycle, and it started probably a couple years ago, and it ends with this October of 2021 date. So we've been working with SCAG, WRCOG. SCAG's the one who delivered our RENA numbers. And they actually changed a few different times, but our final number, I believe, is 4,193 units, which is a significant number when you consider that the entire city has about 34,000 housing units. And so anyway, yes, we're working with that RENA number. We're working with a very good consultant, and we're in conversation with HCD, Housing and Community Development. They actually reviewed the document. They basically give us their blessing before it goes to the city council. So there is a lot of involvement at a lot of different levels, but the state watches this very closely.
Perfect. No, I appreciate that. And I know there had been some specifically for the RENA numbers for this, even though the 4,000 is quite a bit, it's quite a big reduction for where it was originally forecasted to be. So that's why I was just curious what numbers you guys were working with, because it's not an easy task, I'm sure, but an important one.
Yeah, you're right. I think we started out around 10,000 units.
Yeah. Great. Well, appreciate the clarification. Again, thank you for such a detailed yet simplified report.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam. Matt, just a quick question from me. So on the very title slide, it said 2045.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I caught the significance of that. I mean, are we typically doing these with a vision of 25 years out?
Typically, the plan or the planning horizon line for a general plan is about 20 years. So I figure by the time we get through the quality of life master plan and some of these other work tasks, and by the time we adopt this, it'll be right around 25. So 2045 was, I thought, a good title for now. Hopefully it's not 2050. At least that's the intent.
I hear you.
Yeah, a 20-year planning horizon is pretty typical.
I was, as I saw that slide, I was doing the math in my head, like how old will I be in 2045? Will I be able to take advantage of some of these things?
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I echo, the comments of my colleagues. Outstanding report tonight. Very easy to follow. Kudos to whoever's putting the slides together. But
appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate it. And we will be back. We'll be back throughout the process of the quality of life master plan. You'll have a staff liaison, and I believe Commissioner Sizemore will be given maybe some homework to have to report back and get some input from the rest of the Community Services Commission. So we'll be back. We'll be back.
Excellent.
I just wanted to add too, if you come on Saturday to the bike walk, we have new t-shirts to hand out. So if you have a good question or comment, we'll be getting you a t-shirt.
Nice. Well done. Thank you. And so that's a receive and file. So no further action. It's just information sharing.
Yeah.
Very good.
All
Thanks
right.
again, Matt.
Thank you
for joining. And the second item of two items under our business agenda tonight is to receive a presentation on the draft capital improvement program projects, and that will be Erica Russo.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see that PowerPoint presentation? Perfect. Okay, so last year we didn't have our CIP review because I think we didn't have our May meeting, if I recall correctly. But if you go back, for those of you who were here back in 2019, what we do as part of the budget process is every year the CIP gets a little brief overview presentation at all of the commissioners or all of the commissions before it goes to the budget workshop. So this year I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the capital improvement plan. You all received copies of it, and you can see it's quite extensive. It's a big document. So we're obviously not going to go into every project here, but there are a few I just wanted to highlight. So overall, our CIP has 92 projects totaling approximately $700 million. And that's a very extensive capital improvement plan for a city of our size. So it's really, I think, should be a point of pride, the amount of investment the city of Temecula has been able to make into its capital infrastructure. Those 92 projects are divided into 4 categories: circulation, which covers roadways; infrastructure, which is kind of a broad category and includes buildings as well as our parks and trails, as well as irrigation and related items you'll see; parks and recreation, which you're all very familiar with; and then SARDA and housing projects. And you also received a little affordable housing plan, just a 2-page update. So you received that as part of your agenda packet as well. So this evening, I'd like to just highlight the 8 new projects. So of those 92 projects, the majority of them are carryovers. A CIP is a 5-year document, and some projects are started and completed within 1 year. Some take the full 5 years. Some could even roll beyond that if they're particularly extensive, or if it's an open-ended project like our park improvement plan. So the 8 new projects this year, the ones highlighted in red there, I think, are of particular interest to this group. So we have the Rainbow Canyon Road Pavement Rehab Program. Then we have 2 bike lane and trail program new projects: the Great Oak Trail Lighting Program and the Infill Mini Pump Track Program. And then electric vehicles charging stations, and then the Mary Phillips Senior Center Emergency Generator Project, RCWD Recycled Water Accelerated Retrofit Program, and then a dog park renovation, we hope, fingers crossed, for grant funding for that, and pickleball courts. So to go into that in a little more detail, of the new projects, those 5 that I highlighted that are of particular interest. And one thing I would like to point out here is when we look at the CIP document, it's easy to think that we really just need to look at the Parks and Rec section because we are Parks and Rec. But a lot of our projects also fall under the infrastructure category. So these 2 in particular are part of infrastructure. So don't overlook the infrastructure projects. Great Oak Trail Lighting is going to install solar lights along approximately 1.7 miles of the Great Oak Trail, and that's a $400,000 project. And then the Infill Mini Pump Track project is looking at opportunities to install other mini pump tracks similar to the one that we installed at Ronald Reagan Sports Park. So the thought process there is that, we know we did the original pump track in November of 2019, and then we did the mini one about a year later in December of 2020. And those have been so popular, and they're both at Ronald Reagan Sports Park, which tends to be one of our more amenity-rich parks. And so this project is designed to look at the opportunities to kind of just tuck in a mini pump track at some of our other locations. So staff will be looking at opportunity sites for those projects. The Mary Phillips Senior Center Emergency Generator Project will install an energy efficient emergency generator at Mary Phillips Senior Center for emergency use. The dog park renovation, very exciting. We'd like to renovate the dog park over at the Michael Mike Nagar Community Park, formerly Margarita Community Park. I would just like to note that this project's funding source is Prop 68 grants, and we still don't know if we will receive that money yet. So we're waiting to hear, but if we do, that's what we've submitted it for. And then finally, pickleball courts at various park locations. Obviously, there's been a lot of demand for this. And so this is, an opportunity to set aside some funding to potentially take care of the demand for pickleball resources in the city. Looking at Parks and Recreation projects overall, there are 15 total projects. Now, when you look through the booklet, you'll see that several of them are completed. So for example, there's a project at the phase 2 parking at the library that's actually completed. I think there was a project at the History Museum. Oh, Sam Hicks Park, that's been completed, but they still show up in the 5-year CIP that you'll see. But there are 15 total projects totaling $25.4 million. And those include the highlights you see here, including the ongoing projects like the Children's Museum enhancement, Parks Improvement Program, that's an ongoing project renovating our parks, playground equipment enhancement, safety servicing and safety surfacing, same thing, it's an ongoing project, as well as some specific discrete projects. For example, sports field LED conversion, the dog park renovation that we mentioned, and the installation of the CRC splash pad, which we're hoping to get done this next year, and shade structures, some of which were completed as part of the pool renovation. Under the infrastructure section, you'll see another 46 projects totaling $91.5 million. And a lot of those I think will be of great interest to this commission. So one of the ongoing projects in that section is ADA compliance, which looks at our overall ADA compliance citywide, including sidewalks, which, as you know, access is a very important component of ADA compliance. Also the bike lane and trail program, which includes, broadly speaking, as an umbrella category, includes at least 5 separate CIPs, which include the one for citywide bike lanes and trails, the Great Oak Trail solar lighting program we mentioned, the infill mini pump track program we mentioned, and then the Temecula Creek Southside Trail and the Nicholas Road and Santa Gertrudis Trail extensions. Then we have renovations of varying degrees and scopes at the CRC. Obviously, the Margarita Rec Center is a full ground up renovation, the Senior Center and the History Museum, a TES pool renovation, overall citywide surveillance and security projects, EV charging stations, which will be located throughout the city. Typically, whenever we're renovating a parking lot at any of our facilities, that now includes adding a number of EV stations based on the size of the parking lot. Landscape irrigation conversion to recycled water, which is a great water saving program. And urban forest management, which some of you may have received the survey that went out. I hope you received the survey that went out from the city. Looking to gauge interest in the initial public meetings regarding, or community meetings regarding our new urban forest management program. So before we mention the next steps, one thing I just want to clarify when you look at the CIP is you'll see the charts on the pages, and there's 2 sections. The first one basically outlines what everything is going to cost, and it breaks it down into different components of the projects. For example, you might have a line item for design, a line item for construction, a line item for what we call FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And then the second set of the chart, the lower chart, will show where all that money is coming from. And just like at the top where you have different line items for each section or phase of a project, under the funding section, you will see different line items for funding sources. That might include Measure S, might include grant, TUMP funding. There's a variety of different sources, but it also might include funding that's been unassigned. And essentially what that means is it's a placeholder project where all or a portion of the funding has not yet been identified. So just something to bear in mind when you look through the specific projects. Finally, next steps, the budget workshop will be on May 18th at 8 a.m. That will be available via Zoom and Channel 3. More information will be made available shortly on that. And then the full budget will go to City Council for approval on June 8th. And one final note before we conclude, I just wanted to mention, if you had a chance to read the staff report, that they took your comments and your input to heart when you guys provided your input in the community service at the budget engagement session on March 8th. And so I included the comments that finance provided us in response to the various questions that you all posed at that session. So thank you again for your participation in that. Obviously, your feedback was taken to heart, and some responses have been provided by finance. The budget workshop on May 18th is another opportunity to attend, listen to any discussion that might take place regarding the budget, ask any questions you might have. And then obviously, finally, the full budget goes to City Council approval on June 8th. Typically in Temecula, because of the way we do that initial budget workshop, knock on wood, typically there are not any surprises at the full budget presentation at council, and that's a pretty smooth process. So that budget workshop is really a chance for everybody to sort of have their discussions at that point. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Erica. Really appreciate the update. We'll just cycle through our commissioners once again. Commissioner Krastevsky.
Very informative, Erica. Thank you. No questions on my end. You guys are doing a fantastic job. And it's interesting just to see how there are various categories that TCSD falls within as far as our projects. And I'm glad to see that they're getting pushed through. So thank you for that report.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Adi.
Yes, I have one specific question, but first, Erica, thank you for a great presentation. And I'm just taken aback by how much knowledge you have from a perspective that's kind of outside just community services. But as Commissioner Krastevsky said, you know, you can see how it touches on so many things. But I mean, you don't only have to have knowledge of budget and city planning, and you have to have awareness of what's going on in the county around you. I mean, absolutely spectacular. And you were able to put that all in a very understandable presentation tonight. So thank you for that. My specific question was on the flood control channel. You had mentioned there was flood control channel repair. Is that a specific flood control channel, or is that all flood control channels within the parks?
So first of all, thank you for that gracious compliment. I just want to say, though, it truly is a team effort, and we just have an extraordinary network of people that are all too willing to answer questions at any hour of the day and night. So we have a great team here, and we really, really do appreciate that. There are two separate CIPs regarding flood control. I'm just going to click through real quick. I'm looking at my other screen here just to look. There are two separate CIPs. If I recall correctly, there's a dedicated CIP for the flood control channel around Ronald Reagan Sports Park. And then there's a separate flood control CIP that's more citywide. And we have the same thing with the restroom enhancements for the parks. We have one that is for restrooms kind of at parks in general. And then we have a separate one for Ronald Reagan because Ronald Reagan is such a large park. So sorry, I'm still cycling through my sheets over here, but that's how I recall it.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I'm just kind of interested in that because I know that flood control goes beyond city boundaries too. So curious, and I can check into that later. And then lastly, I want to thank you for that comment section that we were able to look at, and really was impressed with that budget process this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that workshop goes and finally the final budget. But like I was saying earlier with those CIP, how they kind of integrate into city planning and circulation with those parks things like trails, walkability, all of those things. So very impressive. And I was really glad that we had some say as a commission on those particular budget items to bolster that in the future. So thanks again, Erica. Appreciate it.
Well, we're glad you guys had input as well, because you can have the nicest parks in the world, but if people can't get to them, it doesn't really help the community. And we're all interconnected here, and we need ways for people to get where they're going and have fun once they get there.
Hear, hear. All right, Commissioner Sizemore.
Thank you, Chair Levine, and thank you, Erica, for your report. And thank you for giving us the responses to those questions from last month in that document. I appreciate that. There are so many great projects that affect the community services that are on the capital improvement project. It's great to see that, and I agree with so many of them. There's one thing I'd love to see moved up quicker, and that is the public restrooms. And I'm talking about like Vail Ranch Park, and my kids used to call parks by the name of the friend that they played with there. So it's Noah's Park, which I think is really Long Creek Park over across from James Day.
Long Canyon.
The port,
Canyon Creek.
Long Canyon.
Mhm.
Okay. The toddlers that I potty trained and had to use the outhouses there, they're in college now. And if you've ever had to balance a baby on one hip while trying to convince a just potty trained toddler that it's okay to use that porta potty and then try to keep them from falling in said porta potty, you would understand why I think it's kind of important. I would love to see some restrooms added to those parks. We eventually just had to stop going to those parks because it was we'd have accidents on the way home with a toddler crying, "I have to go now." So that affects quality of life to me. I'd love to see those public restrooms kind of moved up a little higher in the queue.
I totally understand, and I laugh only from recognition. I've completely been there when my children were little, and I do understand. And it's really a shame to have a really nice park that, you know, people can't utilize fully because of something so simple.
Mm-hmm. And it's just it stands out to me. My daughter is 21 now, and I was taking her to Vail Ranch Park when she was a young toddler. And she's going to be in her last year of college, and that park still has no bathrooms. So we get kind of surprised by that. So, thank you for listening.
Of course.
All right, and we'll wrap it up with Vice Chair Ruiz.
Thank you, Chairman Levine, and thank you, Erica, for that report. Like to see a very well balanced approach, I think, to these projects. You know, it doesn't feel like one's getting too much more attention than the other. There is quite a bit of overlap. Infrastructure is kind of a hot term these days anyway, and seeing, and you said it perfectly earlier, we can have the best parks in the world, but if we can't get there, then you know, kind of what's the point? So I'm also blown away by and I believe you said the proper word earlier of investment, of how much money we have to invest back into our community. I mean, it wasn't but a year ago where we thought we were going to be completely short budget and not knowing what was going to happen and where we were going to have to cut and how do we keep up our quality of life, and, you know, really what was on the horizon. And, you know, fortunately for the city, we've done a good job, and leadership and the staff has done a phenomenal job. And to look and see that we have, you know, this much foresight and planning and responsible spending to offer these programs back and continue having these projects in the community is just fantastic. So just want to commend everybody on that. My two questions for you. The infill for the pump track, are you looking at just locations with a size big enough to take it? Is that more of a priority, or really trying to stretch it to different parts? You know, I mean, like you said, Ronald Reagan is kind of heavy on that, but it's also very central. Are you looking to do two, one on the north and one on the south, or how does that kind of look?
Yeah, access is always a consideration. So the distribution, especially with, as you know, Matt spoke a lot about the traffic issues we have in Temecula. And the reality is, if a parent, you know, family lives on the north end of the city and they have to get down to Pat Birdsall for a practice, for example, you know, we get emails and phone calls to that effect of how long it takes to get to and from their kids' ball practice. So we definitely do consider just distribution of amenities throughout the city. So I would say any location has to meet multiple criteria in terms of size, accessibility, and location within the city.
And I don't know offhand, I would assume no, because I know it's already been developed and planned, but, you know, Summers Bend, you know, just as an option on the north end, you know, if there's any consideration there or around there, I think would be great for those that live on the north end as well. My only other question for you, and I'm assuming it's yes, since it was on the website, but the affordable housing little diagram that was part of our packet, can that be shared out?
You know, that's an excellent question. If it was on the website, then yes, it would be public information. Taking a look at it, it says it's part of the annual operating budget, which hasn't been released yet. But if you found it on the website, then it has been. So I apologize that I don't have that answer, but I can look into it and get it for you.
Okay, I'll hold off for now. I mean, obviously, as you know, part of my day job is real estate, but this affordable housing. I mean, I'm in the middle of our national conference right now, just wrapped up our state conference in affordable housing and what are we doing? That's really top questions here. And this is a very informational, very detailed informational flyer that would be nice to share with some of my colleagues if we're able to.
Mm-hmm. If you notice, the CIP documents were all watermarked with the word draft in the middle. And we were told, and we were told very specifically, keep the watermark because these are not available for distribution yet. This is draft only. They haven't been approved. So I noticed that affordable housing document, does not have that watermark, but I will double check and let you know.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll hold off for now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and thanks again, Chair Levine. That concludes my comments.
Great, thank you, Adam. Erica, thank you for your outstanding report. Very informative. Colleagues hit all the salient points, and I thank you for the report. And this is just a receive and file as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me unshare my screen here so we can.
I like that picture.
There we go. Oh, thank you. That was a Shauna Sarnowski special, and we just used it as a background for a PowerPoint presentation. I thought it looked kind of stately.
It does. It's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So the agenda tells me it's time for the director report. The Director Hawkins.
What's left to talk about? Great presentation, Erica. A great presentation by Matt and Katrina and Tracy, and brought out the A-team. So although we're part of the process and we're brief, always hearing from the team, it's not only a source of pride, but there are little tidbits that we learn along the way too. We appreciate some of the Q&A that goes on with you as commissioners. Vice Chair, you when you're talking to Matt, you're talking about RENA kind of driving that process, and for most people, it's the regional housing needs assessment, right? And it's Matt can get into it. I mean, we throw around acronyms all the time, right? And it's kind of that mandated housing element portion of the general plan, right? And it's pretty much that process that says, okay, California, you need more housing, right? and I know with your day job, it just it cranks out too. But I just wanted to kind of throw that in there too for those who might have tuned in or saying, I wonder what they're talking about there. Well, a couple of things before I just get into my main point, because a lot of information was shared. I know we talked about transportation, and you, Commissioner Adi, you said you're blown away by what was included in the budget, and that's very intentional. I think Erica alluded to it, right? I think it started with Zach when he was on the commission and talked a lot about kind of that infrastructure and cycling and roads and transportation, but it has continued with this commission, and it is truly reflected in the budget process. And so your input and your participation and your advocacy does make a difference, and you're seeing it play out here. I know Friendship Park came up in one of the presentations, right? And that the playground is pretty much finished, which is a true statement. The elements that have been shared with this commission, just in terms of the friendship elements from the buddy bench and some of the murals and things like that, we don't anticipate those amenities or portions of the park to be completed until sometime in June, right, or the latter part of June. So just wanted to clarify. So although the playground may be completed, what I think we'll be referring to as Friendship Park and some of the amenities that have been discussed and been presented to this commission and other commissions like the Ready Commission won't be completed until end of June, and we anticipate a ribbon cutting at that time. We also talked about everything is resuming and wrapping up, and one of the commissioners, Commissioner Krasevsky, we talked about kind of how throughout the region, right? How we're seeing these very positive signs, and we like that too. As with our sports and athletics, as that's kind of ramping back up too, we're going to be circling back with the school district because of our joint use agreements, right? We really have not had to exercise those things because of the limited play, but as things are ramping back up, we had started that process and have placed it on hold. So we'll be revisiting that too with the district, just to ensure that there is proper field space for that allocation process, which all of you know so very well. What else? I shared with you, I think during the meeting, an article that was shared to us by our National Recreation and Parks Association. And it's something we had been talking about, and it was just good seeing it in a public publication, right? In a national publication. And the title of it was "Parks Carry the Pandemic Year on Their Backs." And we've talked about it, and I think our reporting reflects that too. But to see that in a professional publication and everything that goes with that, and also part of that article is, and here's how to thank them. And it's really from volunteerism to advocacy and getting involved and resources, all the things that we've shared and talked about. I really think that Temecula could be a case study, and I think it really refers to what we've been doing, and I think why we've been very successful here too. The other thing I did want to thank the commission is that it's so easy to focus on certain things, because everyone's trying to figure out how do we get through kind of the past 12 to 14 months? How do we get through ever-changing guidelines? How do we get through vaccinations occurring and cohorts and things like that? And how do we make it work? But what I do appreciate is that there's been a consistent focus on what we've been able to do and not what we haven't been able to do. And I have to tell you, just from a staff perspective, that is very much appreciated, right? It's just like in anything, we can talk about, our doors never close. It could have been in a virtual, could have been in a hybrid, but you all know that shows are still going on. People were still, in the parks. When we were able to, we were figuring out ways to hold practices, right? And clinics, whatever you want to call them, right? We did aquatics throughout the entire thing. We came up with special events. All of these things, our homeless outreach efforts never stop. But what we've discovered, just like everywhere, it isn't so much the things that we were doing, it's, well, but you guys didn't do this, right? And I have to tell you that part of the other thing that a lot of the management team has tried to do is also manage morale too. So when we hear this support from you, it goes a long way. You have staff that are tuned in. You have employees who aren't just employees, but they too are residents, which I think is part of our success. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and how much we appreciate your support, because it goes a long way. And just finally, just the things for tomorrow night that you could be interested in. Homeless, we'll be doing a homeless outreach update. Mike Wooden's going to be spearheading that. That's under presentation, so at the beginning of the council meeting. And so opportunity, since we've had some players change and it's been a while, Mike's going to kind of introduce his team and just talk a little bit about what we've been doing, things that have been shared in these reports. And we'll have, Swag and Hot Team and some of the others. And so that it's, I think, perfect timing, to provide an update. Mike and Erica and Bea know I shared just quickly, my son recently moved to the LA area, the Echo Park area. I think you've heard in the news, or that they've had some challenges in Echo Park and some of the homeless population. And I don't know if I called Aaron or one of you, but I basically said I have seen more encampments in this neighborhood than I've seen throughout the entire city of Temecula. Just for comparison, driving through neighborhoods, I saw more encampments in portions of LA than I have seen throughout the entire city of Temecula. So I know sometimes, and rightfully so, we want more. Our residents don't want to see it, and you know, but our efforts and our investment have definitely made a difference. And I can compare and contrast with the best of them, but I see it, and I think I was clicking my heels and saying it's no place like home, you know, just waiting to get back. But so that, but also too, we're going to be providing a special events update, which was referenced in the report, and that's for our summer special events. And it's kind of really seeking concurrence, you know, and any feedback from the council on our summer plans. I think it's important. You know, it's an opportunity to share what we believe we're able to pull off. We talked about having fireworks, and you know, we feel confident in that. And some events may be virtual, but we want to hear back from the council, right? And if there are questions as to why can't we move forward, we welcome the opportunity to talk about, well, like so many other agencies, that we may not have staffing in place, or like Disneyland, for example, is, you know, kind of celebrated that they've reopened, but half of the rides are closed, and they're not having their parade, right? And so, and a lot of times we look to the private sector for examples too. So, but we welcome that discussion, but we're all just trying to find a way to yes. And I think we're very proud of what we've been able, with the support of many of you, been able to do over the past year. And we look forward to, in the fall, being able to do more, in the winter, being able to do a lot more, and this time next year, not having any discussions or conversation or caveats to what we can or can't do, right? So we're just trying to continue to provide the community what they expect and what they deserve. And we too can't wait to kind of get back to normal, because it doesn't matter if we've been doing, you know, virtual things, or if we've been providing services or whatnot. Nothing speaks to a sense of normalcy, which we discovered, except like a signature special event here in Temecula, right? Until you have those, it's like, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but it just trumpets and signals that we are all the way back. And so we can't wait to get to that point. So unless you have any questions, that concludes my report.
Anyone questions for Director Hawkins? Seeing shaking heads. Caught some people looking at their watch. It's all good. All right. So we can go into, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that report. We can roll into commissioner reports. I know some of you weaved in some of your updates to follow some of the other presentations, but we'll start, Vice Chair.
Thanks, Chair Levine. You're right, I actually kind of weaved in some of my stuff from earlier. So nothing additional to add, other than, and we say it, and Director Hawkins, you touched on it, but I really do feel blessed to be part of this TCSD family, you know, and I use that word family intentionally, because I do get the feeling of that. I've been glued to Zoom like crazy, and it's like, oh, here we go. I'm gonna jump on another Zoom tonight, but I honestly feel a little refreshed. It's nice kind of catching up with everybody and seeing all the work. So kudos to you as always, you, Erica, the whole team, staff, everyone that gave reports tonight. Just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Let's go, Commissioner Sizemore.
Thank you, Chair Levine. And I just want to compliment you, Kevin, and all of your department on how you have manage during the pandemic, and you've thought out of the box. And I have been part of two separate organizations leading teams during this pandemic, where the focus has been on we can't do this, we can't do these things that we thought are essential to our program. And it's very inspiring to see you and your team thinking, okay, well, let's look at the things we can do. Okay, there's a lot of things we can't do, but there's a lot of things we can still do differently, but there's a lot we can still do. And thank you for doing that and continuing to provide recreation and services to our community during this time, and just being an inspiration to others. I am really excited to see the summer events on the City Council agenda tomorrow night. I have reviewed what you're presenting online, and it all sounds great. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And I'd say I did want to just compliment again that the PR and the social media presence for the TCSD events, for the roundabout, it's all fantastic. You know, I feel like it's very visible to me. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well said. Thanks, Kathy. Commissioner Adi.
I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. TCSD, yes, you've been in our prayers, and you are the guiding bright light of our city. And at a time when this city's been taking some heat, we can look to TCSD and say, hey, here is the work we've done. And it's just brilliant work. And it is Temecula. And so, yes, we continue to support you. That's number one. You are why this city has a great quality of life. And we are here for your support. I'll just add, Bike Month open house. Matt did the free t-shirt thing. Hopefully that motivates, but it's 9 to 12 this Saturday, Nicholas Park. And there might be some people riding their bikes over. Adam, the other kind of bike, not, but you could ride your other bike over there. That would be fine. Just keep the noise level down. Okay. Thanks again, guys. Looking forward to seeing some of you out there in person.
All right. And we'll wrap it up with vitamin K, Commissioner Krastevsky.
Thank you, Director Hawkins, for your report. I echo what the other commissioners, especially what Commissioner Sizemore said. Just fantastic work. And I really liked when you said that we're working our way to yes. And being in the same field, I get that same sense. And I'm glad that I'm a part of this commission and part of this family as well, where we're not saying, no, we can't do this, but we're trying to work our way to yes, trying to find ways where we can provide the same level of service for the community. So it's an honor and a privilege being part of this group, and fantastic work. And that concludes my report. Thank you guys again.
Thank you, Chris. So not much to add. You know, everything tonight, I mean, such a positive overall report, some very informational and, you know, well planned, you know, reports and things to look forward to. You know, once again, I think Temecula shines in a leadership perspective, you know, certainly in the way that we, you know, run the city, and the way that we run our community services is just nothing short of phenomenal. And I love that, you know, finding a way to yes. And so Director Hawkins and team, you guys, it's a grand slam from my perspective, and proud to have the opportunity to serve the city and serve alongside all of you. So thank you for that. I also understand that it's mental health awareness month. Director Hawkins, any notes on that?
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning it. I wasn't sure if Commissioner Adi was going with Bike Month or mental health awareness. And so, because he's all over it too, but
He is.
yeah, I just real quickly, we discovered and we talked about the impacts of COVID and internally, you know, finding a way to yes, what was very clear when we were trying to, if we couldn't offer the quantity, we wanted to ensure the quality and that part of life that people expect here. But one thing that we did notice, the impacts of COVID and what we needed to touch upon in community services was with COVID, there was this physical impact, the actual virus. There was a fiscal job opportunity. And so we wanted to make sure that things remained affordable. And you saw that in our offerings. You know, there was a spiritual component, to be quite honest, too, when just we talked about being able to connect and have that that interaction and touching bases, but sometimes we couldn't mourn in the same way too. And so we wanted to ensure that we offered that, but also the mental part was something that when folks are taken out of their normal routine, you know, in COVID, we discovered and we know that if you had any malady, it exacerbated it. It could be, an illness or whatnot. And sometimes that carried over to mental health too. We have lost people in our family because of that. And one of the effects of COVID. And so Chair Levine, I appreciate you bringing it up. In addition to Bike Month, it is something just moving forward that we intend to continue to touch lives in those ways, and whatever we can do anything and everything that we do and how we try to represent ourselves. But it's critically important. I just didn't want this meeting to go past without just bringing it up. So thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I guess that brings us to the end of our program this evening. And so the next regular meeting of the Community Services Commission will be Monday, June 14. And I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second, anybody?
I'll second.
There you go. All right.
I thought we were going to be staying here all night.
There's a motion by Commissioner Sizemore to adjourn with a second by Commissioner Vice Chair Ruiz. All in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Aye.
That's a unanimous at 7:49. Thank you.
We stand
Night, everyone.
adjourned. Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.